We're going.
We're recording. Okay. Well, I used to be a banker at the Bank of New York, so I was a financial guy. I made loans and collected loans, and left banking to join a mining company. Worked in corporate development doing mergers and acquisitions, and then moved over to be the CFO, Chief Financial Officer for the international operations, and then moved to St. Louis to run the international operations. And then we sold the business 2 years later. Well, the original idea that we started with was Group 1 Capital, which was our leveraged buyout company. So when my wife and I moved to St. Louis, I was working for St. Joe, and she left her job at the Bank of New York. And we decided it'd be a good time for us to do something more entrepreneurial, so we started looking for acquisitions. We found a partner here who had the same goals, and my wife and Doug, our partner, started making acquisitions, and we bought our first company in 1986, and I joined the firm in 87, and we made about one acquisition a year after that. Over the years we acquired about 20 companies, and then we probably did about 5 or 6 startups, which were businesses that had no background. So a leveraged buyout is where you take a business that's already in existence, you buy it, you run it using a lot of leverage, a lot of debt, and then you run it for a number of years, usually 5 to 7, grow it, make it bigger, and then sell it. Well, I'd lost my job, so I joined the business because I wasn't working anymore. Although I had opportunities to do other things, it wasn't like I had to do this. It was a chance to work for ourselves. We knew it would be financially rewarding, gave us a lot of flexibility in our schedule. And it's the American dream to work for yourself. So there were 3 of us in the firm. It was myself, my wife, and Doug. Well, I think the best thing to describe would be businesses we tried that either did or didn't work. We tried a garden gift shop, we tried a popcorn retailing chain, we tried a pen retailing chain, and none of those worked out. But the idea up front was, what would be a good retail concept, because we'd had great success with our sunglass business. One of the acquisitions we made was a company that retailed sunglasses in kiosks. And we were primarily focused in the Midwest. We grew it from 60 stores to 370 before we merged with the Sunglass Hut, and became part of that organization. And we sold our stock. With the success we had in retail with sunglasses, we thought we could do it in other areas. So we tried pens, we tried garden products, we tried popcorn. And what we discovered was we had good relations with the mall operators, and we could get lease space, but it's very difficult to get the profitability you need with a lot of these concepts. So we tried them. After they didn't work, we'd shut them down and move on. So that's how you basically come up with an idea and try. Most new ideas fail. We also did a medical device project where we took some technology out of Washington University, tried to develop it into a product which would give us targeted biopsies of prostates for prostate cancer detection. And technically it worked really well, but again, the medical device field is very difficult. Reimbursements are the main driver for doctors. It was almost impossible for us to get additional reimbursement for our product. So even though we provided a better product, the technology was great, the doctors that used it loved it, and they thought they treated cancer better. Because we couldn't get reimbursement for it, it was difficult to make a penetration in the market, and we ended up selling it to someone else who is now trying to make a go of it, a much larger organization.
Sir.
We had none. We were pretty experienced. At the time I started, I was about 37, and I had a lot of experience in industry. So my partner, who was a little bit older at the time, had a background in financial accounting, so he was an accountant by training. And so we had accounting, we had banking, we had operations, so that's a pretty good combination to start with. And we hired outside accountants, we hired outside lawyers to do the technical work when we were actually making acquisitions. But as far as our own internal staff, we were pretty much well prepared to do the kind of work we were doing. Usually when you buy a company, we bought it from a founder or somebody who had started the company in the beginning. And most of these founders had lived off the company for a number of years, and they'd run out of ideas for growth, and our whole strategy was to find ways to grow the company. So we would almost always have to hire a new president. Either the president they had was old and ready to retire, or else he hadn't done well with the business and needed to be changed out. So we generally hired a new president. We also hired a new chief financial officer. And because we had a lot of debt, we had to put a lot of financial controls in place, and had to have high level of confidence that our accounting was good. So those are the two changes we always made. And then as we went through the business over time, owning it and running it, we would make improvements. We'd fire presidents, we'd hire presidents, but generally below that level, the operational management, the marketing officers and the operations people are generally hired by the president or the rest of the organization. But we had, our companies would have over 1,000 people sometimes. So they were big companies, but we primarily dealt at the most senior level. Smart is the most important quality I've ever found in an employee. I mean, I've hired employees with a lot of experience, and I've hired employees that are very smart, and the smart employees are always the best. And it makes sense because you're always, when you're in a small business like the many companies that we had, you had to wear a lot of hats. So you couldn't afford to specialize in just marketing, and just sales, and just finance. I mean, you had to really get involved in all sorts of things. So we had our financial guy doing plant layouts for new warehouses that we were building, and we would analyze data to determine best marketing strategies to go forward. Everything we did was very data driven. Every company we acquired, we developed a financial model and projections going forward. So, and the banks held us to it, so we had to perform up to our financial projections. Now, once you get into the business, you revise those models and projections, and hopefully you can find ways to make it grow even faster than you projected. And that happened many times. But you really have to develop your business plans as you go. What you find after a year or two is that it's only about 5 things that run most businesses. And once you establish what those parameters are, you focus on. Like in the sunglass business, the primary business for the sunglass business was having efficient operations, but also getting good leases. So we put a lot of effort into finding good leases with the very small developers. And we did a lot more work on that than we did on marketing to consumers, because the malls were what brought the consumers to the business. And our operations were extremely efficient. And that's just because we had people that knew how to, I had people that I worked with that knew how to do that, and that was sort of my background too. So we had a very efficient fulfillment inventory management system. Get a partner. Don't try to do it on your own. You need someone to bounce ideas off of with, and recognize that you're doing something that's extremely risky. So limit your personal exposure. In our business, where we did leverage buyouts, we were able to independently buy each company. So we didn't use the credit or the value of one company to support the acquisition of the next. So every company stood on its own. You have to put an equity layer in, but beyond that, the debt was generally non-recourse to the shareholder. So if you can manage to build your business without investing more than you can afford to lose, then you're in a secure position. If you have to go personally bankrupt, if the business fails, then you may have overstepped your objective, so you don't want to push yourself that far. But it's always risky, especially new startups, and you have to be prepared to lose or win. You can't always win.